Okay.
Jessica, hold wait.
Oop, am I on?
Have
Yep.
a look
Yep,
at
you're on.
that and let us know if
Okay.
so which day.
Good
She
evening.
told me which day.
At this point, I'd like to call the meeting of the Hamilton-Wenham Regional School Committee to order on Thursday, April 27th, 2023 at 7:01 p.m. And I'd like to invite you to join us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. And
Four, 1, 2, 3,
where's my sheet of paper?
4.
Oh, you have it.
Oh,
I was going to read. Amy, would you please read the land acknowledgement?
Sure.
7, yeah.
The Hamilton-Wenham Regional School District would like to acknowledge the Massachusetts Tribe, the tribe of indigenous peoples from whom the colony, province, and Commonwealth of Massachusetts have taken their name. We would like to pay our respect to the ancestral bloodline of the Massachusetts tribe and their descendants who still inhabit historical Massachusetts tribe territories to this day.
Thank you. Okay. Next up are citizens' comments. I'm going to look to Mr. Tracy. Do we have any citizens available on Zoom?
As of the second, nobody is on Zoom.
Okay. It appears that there's no one in the room who wants to make a comment. Nope. Okay. All right. Seeing no comments, we will close the Zoom link at 7:03. Right, moving right along. Francesca, would you be willing to read a portion of the school committee protocols, please?
Yeah, sure. As elected members of the Hamilton-Wenham Regional School Committee, we, including the superintendent, accept the high honor and trust that has been placed in us to ensure that the students of the district receive the best education possible. To that end, we hereby commit to the following in the conduct of our business. The superintendent and the school committee represent the needs and interests of all students in the district and place the students' interest above all others in their decision, while remaining within the limitation of a voter-approved budget.
Thank you. Julia, would you be willing to read the highlighted portion of the mission statement, please?
The Hamilton-Wenham Regional School Committee will lead and inspire a district that empowers administrators to seek innovation, responsiveness, and creativity in all aspects of district operations.
Thank you. Okay. Next up is the consent agenda. Does anyone have any items that they would like to hold from the consent agenda? Nope. Okay. Hearing none, can we have a motion for the consent agenda?
So I move that the Hamilton-Wenham Regional School Committee approves the consent agenda as written.
Second.
Second by Jen Carr. Thank you. There is no debate on the consent agenda, so we'll move straight to a vote. All those in favor? And that is unanimous of the 6 members present, and the motion passes. Okay. Right. Moving right along. Under new business, strategic plan. Mr. Tracy.
Strategic plan. Excellent. I'm excited to present this. I've been waiting a long time for it, and this is actually the first public unveiling of it, and I'm going to show it to you in a different format than we have on an exhibit, only because we just recently were able to get it to work with the software that you need to run it. And I'm gonna kind of do this backwards. I'm going to show you the final plan as a flip book. This is our design up on the screen. It's the strategic plan flip book, and if you looked on the exhibits tonight, you saw it as a PDF, so it's just a strip of pages that they go together in twos. So unless you know that, it looks a little weird. But this is the flip book that was designed for us by TLA and their people. And this, remember, the strategic plan is for 3 years, 23 to 26. Pretty straightforward. It goes right into a table of contents, location, a little note from myself regarding the process and how we walk through it. And then the portrait of the graduate, front and center, is an important part of the work that we did last year. Some of the planning members here, a basic summary of the process, and then the new mission statement. Together we inspire continuous learning in order to lead a purposeful life. Got a lot of actually positive comments on that, including some of the TLA people were like, we want to use this. So they've asked to use our stuff for some of their future meetings that they'll have. And then, of course, our core values on the right-hand side: passion for learning, belonging, inclusivity, curiosity, partnerships, and integrity. Then the vision statement: engage the future with creativity and confidence. Theory of action just kind of describes how we'll, the things that we do to get there: improving student outcomes through high expectations, deeper learning opportunities, and data-informed instruction in a supportive and equitable environment, utilizing leading-edge technologies and facilities will inspire continuous learning for a purposeful life. And then these are the strategic objectives. So you'll see these again later tonight as we talk about planning and goals for next year. These are the four kind of compass points, if you will, for the 3-year plan. So they're the bigger umbrella buckets, if you will, for each of the segments of the plan: teaching and learning, communication, community partnerships, personnel and facilities, technology, and then culture and wellness. And then the breakdown of each one under each strategic objective. So you have the strategic objective, the initiative that may be under there. Some of them have 2, some of them have 3, some of them have 4. But each strategic objective is listed with the initiatives, with the expected outcomes, possible timeline, and then who's responsible. And that goes through for all 4 strategic objectives. And then the page that you see on the right-hand side is actually called the dashboard. So that's designed to be a standalone product so that we can take this out. We could actually go around to businesses in the community and ask them to post this in the window. So they start to kind of put our brand out there and the things that the things that we're working on. What are our objectives? What's our mission? What's our vision? Our core values, and then that's the end of the booklet. But I'll show you a quick, a little bigger version of the dashboard. The dashboard is actually a good document for us to be able to use as we pass along information to people outside of the school district specifically. I think it's important to really start to take this and get it out. We have our family and community liaison, along with our friends groups. We're hoping they'll be able to help us push this out into the community so that people can, it's like a one-page, here's where we are, here's what we're doing, here's why we do what we do, here's how we're going to get there. And I think this is great for that purpose. So it's I was excited when I first saw it, and then I wanted to get it into the flip book, so I actually took the free version and stuck it into the flip book so we could see it tonight. What we will do is we have to actually complete a contract with the company. It's called Issue. They will take our doc and give us insert a format that we can insert into our website, so that we'll have that available on our website in various places, so people can flip through it, and it'll be kind of right on that front landing page, so people will see it as well. So, and this really brings that whole process of designing the strategic plan and preparing it to a close. And really, as a group tonight, I'm just asking for a vote to accept it, and then we'll move forward using it for our goals and our future planning for the next 3 years.
Thank you for that really important piece of work. This committee push to have done, so thank you. It's,
Yeah.
you know, so that's great. Do people have questions or comments for the superintendent?
Uh,
Francesca,
I do have a couple of questions. So,
can you speak right into the mic? I have a
Yeah.
trouble, there's a,
yeah, first of all, thank you for creating this document. This is really, really nice. It's great reading it, and it's a lot of work, and thanks to you and all the people that were involved to generate it. So since I'm chiming in a little late and I'm kind of catching up, just a couple of questions. So I think that the point number 2 here, it's a very important one. I think that, you know, communication, like improving communication or continuing to improving that aspect of how the school communicate with the community, it's very, very important. So I'm asking, has there been discussions yet on how we intend to achieve that goal, like in terms of like creating a communication plan or like in general terms? Can you
So
speak a little bit about that?
That's a great question. This will drive that discussion. So tonight, you'll all get a quick flavor of what we're beginning to do with the process of setting goals for the 23-24 school year. I met with leadership team today. We started looking at that process and really trying to connect the dots with the portrait of the graduate, our core values, and the strategic planning process. We have, I guess, a sub-document to this that has action steps that are built in so that while we're working on goal development with this group and with the leadership team group, we'll draft goals and kind of hone them as we go along over the next 2 months with the hope that by that last meeting in June, we have a fairly substantial set of draft goals to move into the summer where then the leadership team usually will, during their retreats in the summer, fine-tune it and have it ready to go for the beginning of the school year. So that's the plan. You'll get a little taste of it tonight, and then I'll give you some homework tonight so that will help us in the leadership team to begin that process of developing goals. And then in the next, maybe the second thing we'll do after this, you'll see where we go with it. But yes, there's still a lot of room to go, if you will, to build because we really want to decide on goals that link to the current goals, you know, and I'll use the MTSS goal as an example. We've said it all along, that is going to go on for 3, 4, 5 years. So you'll see that goal appear again. It's just going to keep resurfacing, and it's perfect because it fits under the strategic objective of teaching and learning. The communication piece, okay, when I gather information from you, gather information from the leadership team, one of those things that I hope you would suggest is to say we need to put together some type of communication plan, you know, and then that would be included in that whole discussion.
Okay, gotcha. Thank you very much. And the other question I had, and you may touch on that later, so if you do, you don't need
It's
to
okay.
answer now. So, and I can't open the document fully now for some reason, but I know as part of like the learning objective, there's the implementation of the multi-tiered sort of learning plan for the school, which
Multi-tiered systems of
multi-tiered
support.
systems of support, exactly. So, and I was curious as of like, if you can speak about like where we stand in Massachusetts in general for the implementation of this program. It seems like it's still fairly new, but it's been talked about for a while, so.
We're in our second year of implementation. This is our second year. We started last year later in the year because I didn't start till October 1st. So we started a little bit later in the year previous, and then this full school year, we probably have 3 to 5 more years to go before full implementation because we're rolling up. So we started pre-K to 5 and have built up to 6th and 7th that was the goal we set this year, and then that will roll again to 8th, 9th. 9th has actually started this year because they were working in conjunction with the middle school. So Brian Managoni was able to get some of that started this year. He has a good plan in place, so we'll be able to roll that to 10th, and then it'll continue all the way up until the 12th grade.
Okay.
So it's got a few more years of implementation.
Okay, well, thank you. Thank you
Yep,
so much,
you're
and thanks
welcome.
for your patience. I'm catching up here.
Of course, anytime.
questions? David?
Yeah, I think the one thing that I feel is missing from this is a longer-term capital projects kind of plan, particularly facilities across more like a 5 to 10 year horizon, together with a financing plan to go with it.
Yep.
And so what I'd love to see is that added, either modify continue the, I mean, doing the Cutler Winthrop is one chunk of that.
Yep.
But it doesn't get us to parity with our peer schools. So defining what that parity looks like and then putting a stepwise plan together and seeing whether it is financeable
Yeah.
just seemed like a good, that would be a genuine strategic planning.
So that'll be part of what I'm gonna ask you to do. Once I do my next presentation, that's the homework you'll get.
Okay.
So the things that you think as committee members are important that fit into these planning documents, so I'll go just quickly to the, right here, the strategic objectives. Number 3 is where you're talking about personnel, facilities, and technologies. So take what you said and we'll create a goal with something related to that, like a long-term facilities plan. So that'll be part of homework. So you guys
Okay,
are very far ahead of me. It's all right. We'll
No, I mean, I just want to jump in and sort of compliment my fellow committee members, because I just think those both are really important questions, and they actually dovetail together, right? About, it might not just be talking about facilities, it might be talking about how to communicate about facilities and how to create a plan. I mean, so it's a reason why it's a wonderful thing to have a strategic plan, because it fosters this kinds of really positive, so that's just my 2 cents, but I
Totally
think that, having, just having us read this plan generates much better questions and thoughts than just trying to come into it cold. It's really, that's my thought. Anyway, sorry, I'll get off my soapbox. Anybody else have questions? Okay, well, I will get
Question?
back on for 1 minute then, yeah.
I
Julie?
just want to refresh on the timeline, because I feel like I lost, I don't, maybe it's in here. I'm sorry.
Timeline for,
The timeline for when the strategic plan is going to be.
It's basically
fleshed out.
already started.
Yeah.
Because some of the goals are linked to what we're doing, the work we're doing now, but we put 23 to 26, knowing that the bulk of the work will begin in the summer and then the fall, moving forward. So
Okay.
by 25, we'll start the process of building a new strategic plan, and 26, we'll wrap up this part of it.
Okay. Yeah, understanding it's always an evolving.
You're right. And you may see some of the timeline shift. As David said, he brought up a good point, like money, what's realistic for,
Right.
these projects that we're looking at, $100 million possibility of elementary school, $15 million for the fields. We've talked about a number of other things that are on the horizon. So how do we manage that and be realistic with the towns too?
Oh, and one other question, and this is a silly question. All of these pictures are actually our pictures, right?
Yeah.
Okay, not
There
a
was one that
single-
wasn't. We had it taken
Not a single
out.
stock photo, right?
Nope.
Okay, good.
Nope.
I had that
Just a
question too,
design.
but-
I recognize Jada on the cover,
Yeah.
but I was like, I just wanted to make sure it wasn't.
We went through
I didn't think we would.
two processes
Got a
of
lot of great photos.
putting
we
all
can
the
use.
pictures we could find
Yeah.
that we know were our kids in one place. The person who designed this actually out of the probably 300 pictures Jan Caulfield
Yeah,
put
no,
together.
that's great. That's
She found the
fantastic.
one picture of someone that was at an event.
Oh.
So you see the bigger picture is an event with all kinds of kids.
Yep.
Kids from our school and kids from the other school, and she honed in on, she cropped the kids from the other school, and we were all looking at her like, I don't think those are our kids.
Yeah.
That doesn't look familiar.
No, it's
So
really.
we
the
did
pic-
swap
the
out one
pictures are
picture.
Really fantastic.
Yeah,
so.
even the designer commented on the pictures. She loved them. She said, this is so easy with having this much selectivity. So we did have some outside help with that.
Thank you. I guess I just want to say thank you to the whole team for doing this work. And I know that I've already said this in a meeting, but I'm going to say it again, that, David Polito's unfortunately not here to sort of, but Julia, you kind of lived some of it too. When I entered the committee in the spring of 2020, in a time of crisis, the district at that moment didn't happen to have a strategic plan. And to me, that was such an experience of learning how important it would be. Like, we're preparing for what we think is the known and the predictions, but how valuable for me this would have been to have something to look to guide us in a time that was, completely unimaginable before it occurred. And so I just think this is a gift to our future selves to have this, because it is a North Star and a guiding light that we can look to when unexpected, good or bad, things happen. Opportunities could come by that this is so anyway, I just want to say, I feel really strongly about how important this is to have in place and to have kind of always in a district a vision like this. So thank you. All right, I think you need an actual vote, correct?
Correct. Just to accept the strategic plan.
All right, so we need a vote to accept the strategic plan. Could we have a motion?
As written, okay. So, I move that the Hamilton Wenham Regional School Committee approves the school strategic plan as written and presented today.
Second.
Second by Julia. Is there any further discussion? All right, looks like we're ready for a vote. All right, all those in favor? All right, and that is unanimous of the 6 members present, and the strategic plan passes. Excellent.
Thank you.
After a lot of hard work.
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, next up, on a related vein, sort of a beginning discussion on district goals.
I feel like I'm far away.
You're so far away.
I need a different set of glasses. Well, thank you. I appreciate the support on the strategic plan. I really appreciate all the people who are involved, the parents, the kids. We had select board members, we had school committee members, school personnel, people who are just people in the community who weren't directly associated with the school. So it was great. It was great to have all those kind of minds together and driving that forward. And it does give us a great North Star for the next few years to be able to plan decisively. And also, I think it gives us a bit of ability to be nimble when we need to. If there's a crisis or an issue, I think we can continue forward with our plan while also incorporating something at an emergency level if we had to. Tonight I'm going to do a quick presentation similar to what I talked to the leadership team today about. I'm going to bring some reminders to you from the things that we're doing now all the way to back to the strategic plan that you had just approved. So remember our current district goals. We have 4 district goals: building the vision and the strategic plan. We've met that goal. We set out to complete the bulk of the work by December 15th, which we presented the draft plan, and then it went into kind of cleanup mode. Took a little longer than we wanted it to, but that goal is set. Improving teaching and learning, building those MTSS structures. We have now rolled MTSS structures up from the pre-K all the way up through and including 7th grade now. We're tracking data. Specifically we're using the same tool, the DIBELS tool, for 6th grade and 7th grade. And we can use it for 8th grade. We just haven't decided if we want to continue that far up with it. And then we're also using iReady, which is a math tool to give us some opportunity to assess where kids are at. So the way the MTSS structures fit in is really where a kid's getting support. One of the things we noticed, if you go all the way back to my entry plan, kids were getting support outside of class. So if Johnny in the 3rd grade needed support in anything, say literacy, some support personnel, a reading specialist, a math specialist would come get Johnny, take Johnny and maybe one other student aside, outside of the classroom, and go through the supports and give them the supports they need. Meanwhile, they're missing whatever was happening in the classroom. So our version was to flip it over. We flipped it over last year, and we started to push more of our supports into the classroom. So tier 1 supports, we really are continuing to push that Tier 1 supports need to happen in the classroom. It's really important so that we're not taking kids out as much as we were in go back 2 years to my first year. So that was part of it. And the second part of it is, what does the Tier 2 and Tier 3 supports look like? Tier 2 supports are really, you don't see them used often. They're available when kids are showing in our data they're having trouble in a specific area. We have, as you know, we have literacy TAs in each of the buildings. And one of those literacy TAs can work with the coach in the building, identify the data points that, okay, we have identified in a data team meeting that these 4 kids need this intervention, these 3 kids need this intervention, and they can specifically go for those smaller numbers of kids. And that's where they'll pull them out, but they're trying to be strategic about where they take them out and what classes they're being removed from. CKLA has also supported that because we're able to see huge difference in our classroom kind of knowledge level, if you will. And if you go into classrooms, you'll see the consistency too. Go back to my entry plan. One of the things I identified was that if I went into the same grade class in different schools using the elementary, there was a different experience for similar grade across the thing. Nobody's fault. It was just that's how it was kind of designed. Once we came out of COVID, it was like, go. So we were able to bring in the CKLA program after some support from the state and use that to get everybody on track. And one of the things we do with our walkthroughs is we continuously look for the implementation of CKLA, kind of the fidelity, if you will. We're also looking for things unrelated to classroom walkthroughs, like talking with teachers, getting some feedback from teachers. Like right now, we know that certain segments of the 3rd grade CKLA program are so intensive that kids won't be able to kind of get it all between now and the end of the year. So we're picking and choosing where we need, where we're seeing our weak spots. The one thing about CKLA is it spirals through the curriculum. So what kids see in 1st grade, and I'll just use the neurological system is one of the ones that sticks with me because I almost fell on the floor when the 1st graders were drawing it and talking about it. But they'll see that again in 3rd grade. They'll see that again in 5th grade. They'll see that again when they get up to the high school. So it's building that knowledge base and increasing it as it goes. So those are part of our structures of support that are built into the program. We're moving in that direction with math as well, looking at, again, curriculum fidelity, and then looking at ways to assess math across the longitude of pre-K to 12, well, pre-K to 11, 12's a little bit harder because kids are in so many different places. Committing to diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging. We're continuing to present activities, bring in speakers, work with staff, and do different events. Some accepted and some not in the community, and really that's part of our growing and learning process, and we'll continue to do that. I think that's again, leaning on a new data set, I think, is an idea that the leadership team came up with. So for example, we did that equity audit a couple of years ago now, a year and a half ago, 18 months. We've been gathering other data along the way. So now using all of those data sources and sets to be able to say, okay, where do we go from here? We're focusing on our core beliefs and our core values, if you will, and that's belonging and inclusivity. Those pieces jump right out at us. So we're really threading the needle with our goals and our long-term planning. And then improving learning environments. Big victory on a town meeting for moving that field project forward, and that's exciting. That is one of our learning environments, whether people want to say it is or isn't, but we do use those fields all day long and into the evenings, and that's another step forward. Continuing to work on the project for the Cutler School. Monday we have a meeting with the MSBA to get our OPM, Owner's Project Manager, approved, and that will be the next step. After that, we'll be bringing in a designer, so we'll interview designers and get what they call the feasibility study team together, which will be the OPM and the designer, and then we'll start to really dig into kind of the deep parts of what do people want, where can it go, what makes sense for a configuration. So there's a lot of things that will happen over the next probably 15 months or so related to the project. Those are our current goals. Then you look at the strategic planning, and we talked about these strategic objectives a few minutes ago, And teaching and learning, you're starting to see them fit together. You'll see them kind of flow together. Communication and community partnerships, personnel, facilities, and technology, culture, and wellness. This covers these bases moving back, sliding backwards, if you will, but also our idea is to be able to connect the dots with our future planning. Okay, so now we want to really see that thread all the way through into future. Some things will fall off. For example, we're not going to be working on a strategic plan moving forward. We've got to that point, we have the document, so that will fall off, and then we'll replace it with what the next logical steps that come out of our discussions. Portrait of the graduate, we spent a lot of time thinking about the portrait of the graduate and designing a portrait of the graduate, and part of that is really how do we integrate that. So one of the things I've asked the the leadership team to do was to look at all of these documents and then decide how these things connect together. So when you're talking about collaboration, how does that connect in our goals for the future? So that we're supporting the portrait of the graduate along through pre-K to 12, and we're also encouraging people to continue to make those connections along our pre-K to 12 curriculum. And then some thoughts. I want you to keep things in mind. As I said, I'm going to give you a little homework tonight. This is something I'm hoping you can do individually. I was thinking about doing it in a group session, but I really want your individual thoughts because I think each of you brings a little bit different perspective to the table, and kind of you have like, oh, this is important to me, and this is what I know I've heard from constituents or neighbors or whatever. But I want you to keep in mind as you think through this quote assignment, not hard, the strategic plan, the current district goals, the portrait of the graduate, and then in using those, what are our highest needs, or what should we prioritize? So I would ask you to say, okay, look at our strategic plan. Under each of the strategic objectives, what would you prioritize? What do you think should come first? Even though there's a timeline, I'm going to ask you to ignore the timeline in the strategic plan. I think that'll be good information to bring back to the leadership team as we have our discussions. So what are the kind of the more important needs that are already outlined in the strategic planning process? And then take a shot at developing a draft goal. And I'll use Francesca's example earlier about communications. So I would encourage you to draft a goal related to communications. And if each person can draft 1 or 2 goals that fit under one of the 4 strategic objectives, or 2 goals that fit under 1, or 1 or 2 goals that fit under individual ones. We would bring all those together, and I'll help you with this because I'm going to send you a sheet that will help guide you, and then I'll bring them all back together. We'll bring that to the leadership team as they have their discussions and try to incorporate and blend all that together. After that process, we will push it out to our curriculum leaders, our coaches, and then finally out to our buildings in department meetings, building meetings, so we can get some feedback along the way. By the time we get to the final meeting in June, we're hoping to have that kind of draft of here are the next 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 goals for next year that will stay connected to all these points, these things I'm asking you to keep in that kind of in the front of your mind, while also bringing us forward, leading us into the future. And there are some things that you may put in as a goal that we might not be ready for. The leadership team will say, well, we have one more step before that. And we'll bring that forward too, and we'll kind of talk about it a little more publicly once we gather that information. So from that perspective, that's the homework. That's the piece I'm asking each of you to do. And not by next meeting, but probably the meeting after that at the latest. So it's actually 3 weeks away, because our next meeting is next week. And then there's 2 weeks, so that second May meeting, if you can get those to me, I will share a document with each of you individually. You can use it as a template, and it's kind of a guide, which we set up in a UDL format, Universal Design for Learning, so it has some other perspectives in there that you can probably use as you think this through. These are not perfect goals. When you start talking about goals and planning, and the one conversation I had with the leadership team today was, I'm going to just ask you to draft a goal. I'm going to ask you to, while you're drafting the goal, to think about how you're going to measure it. So the SMART goal system, if you haven't heard about it, you know, we want to really make it measurable, attainable. Measurable for me is an important piece. We need to be really clear in how we're going to measure. So if you have a goal, you might say by X date, we're going to do these 4 things related to the development of X. So just keep that in mind. It does not have to be perfect, but that's where we're going to get to as a group. So we're going to be running 2 groups simultaneously. We'll bring them together and then have a good I think we'll have a good discussion too. Then in the summertime during our retreats, we'll have one with the school committee and one with the leadership team. Then we'll be able to clean them up and have them ready to go before the school year starts. Meanwhile, as that's happening, the leadership team's also asked to start the sub-process of school improvement planning for next year. If you go back a year or two, school improvement planning gets presented in October, which really makes no sense. Like, we're already 7 or 8 weeks into school, we're late, so we're trying to shift that back. And then part of the summer retreat will also be the strategic planning process for the leadership team, to have those ready to go, so that that first meeting in September, that's on the agenda for presentation and moving forward, so that we can get a better jump on our goal structures.
Quick question.
Yep.
What is the scope of the school improvement planning?
So school improvement planning is individually based, designed and determined by the school councils. So the school council and the principal will, using their own processes, but generally they reach out to their people within their building. What are some things related to this information? Important. If you look at the strategic plan, there's also some things that are very building specific, that principals will take right out and say, okay, this can be one of my my school improvement goal for next year. So it could be facilities related. It could be curriculum related. It could be staff and professional development related. There's really no boundaries for them outside within their school facilities. And some things they have control over. They don't have a lot of control of money outside of what the budget they get approved by the process. So if you go back through the budget process, each building has a very set budget broken out into specific line items. They don't have an extra $20,000 to go do something unique. They do have avenues that they can traverse to try to get some of those funds, and I use Ed Fund as an example. They've been a great supporter of those projects, bigger projects that may not fit into the budget, but fit into those school improvement plans. So that's a good question, yeah. Thank you. I'll take other questions if people have them.
My question is, how many goals ideally are you looking for? And I don't remember what we had.
102?
Talking about
Yeah.
are you talking about for the district goals?
Yeah.
I think
Yeah,
we had
district
5.
goals.
Did we have 4 or 5?
I think- yeah,
I
we-
should know them off
Yep.
the top of my head.
he's gonna
These
find
are our
it.
district goals.
The 4.
Yeah.
So those were 4.
That's a good place to
I
be.
think it's a good place. Yeah.
Here's why. Staff really made it clear that initiative fatigue was a thing for them. And it go back to my presentation, I think Dana was there opening day with the teachers, like that was the one thing I said. We have 4 goals that are very specific. 2 of them are really where teachers work under. So they were working here, teaching and learning, and then the diversity and equity and belonging piece, that's really where we put teachers this year to say, these are the things we want you to focus on. Outside of that, the strategic plan, we'd love to have you involved, we'd love to have your feedback. We will drive that process with a team. And then the improving learning environments is kind of this ongoing thing where, you know, the field project, the Cutler School project, and anything else that we might do, like the cleanup of this gym auditorium in this building, which was approved in the budget. That's really like a goal, but it's never stated. So there's all these pieces that never get publicly stated, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. Even though they fit, like improving learning environments, we have big projects. The auditorium at the high school, the Bucher gym, PA system in the Bucher, so those things fit under there. We don't necessarily have to set a goal because some of those we'll do before school will even start. Because once we get July 1, we will start those projects. So you won't see them come in under, as a goal. But there's still things, so those things are still going on kind of behind the scenes. Even some of our curriculum work doesn't end up as a goal, but when you look more deeply in it, it's built in because it's teaching and learning, it's built in. So it's just not a specific goal. So there are a lot of things going on, even though they're not stated very specifically. So we're looking, I would say 4 or 5 max. I wouldn't go any more than 5. And again, the improved teaching and learning, MTSS, is going to stick because that's a theme. That's what we do. That's what we come to work for every day, like teaching and learning. How do we make it better? How do we get better? How do we improve the systems? How do we help kids to get through barriers and anything that may be in their way? So it's just fascinating. And it's a little complex, too, to now start to connect the dots between a strategic plan, a portrait of the graduate, and then even the documents that you have in your mission statement, like start to think about connections related to the school committee mission, the school committee, the document that gets read at the beginning of, what we commit to. All of those things have very similar items built in, so I think it's a good opportunity for us now to thread the needle in a lot of ways and really lay the foundation, because this next goal set will drive 24, 25. And then that goal set will drive 25, 26, along with the support of the strategic plan. So in some ways, we know where we want to go. It's just how are we going to get there and what are the milestones.
And I have a question. So we're going to revise the statement at our retreat in August?
Are you talking about our mission statement?
The school committee mission statement?
So, yeah, so that's a great question, and it's actually something I was going to talk about anyway, but
Okay.
that's fine. We're going to, I have it under it's something this is something we just created, this school year. It is something we can talk about at the retreat. Now that we have an approved strategic plan, I think it's likely that we can have a conversation about to what Eric just said, probably more
Putting it all
eloquently, like,
together.
right, how does that look like? In other words, there's no rule that we have to have this statement on the easel. Maybe we end up having the strategic plan on the easel, or maybe we have our district goals that we create on the easel. I mean, so that's something that, yes, I think that's very appropriate for the retreat in the summer, and we'll have a lot more information at that point.
Right.
Great.
We'll have draft district goals at that point,
Mhm.
so,
And then the two groups will be fine tuning.
yeah, so.
I have one more question, because I like to do homework correctly, so.
Don't worry, I will send it
Do
to
it
you.
correctly.
You'll know exactly what it is.
So where are we submitting these to and when and,
You're going to get a Google Doc from me specific
Okay.
to you,
okay,
and you don't have to submit it because I already own it. So I'm going to just share it with you with very basic set of directions, and then you can take it from there. And this is
So it's
really, I'm
individu-
asking you,
It's individually.
yep, individually, no sharing, no cheating off of somebody
Okay.
else.
Yeah, no, that would be an open meeting law violation.
Oh, yeah,
Right.
that
so you
would,
just-
you're
Right.
right. That's
You
what I
have
was
a
thinking.
plagiarism
do it by yourself.
policy.
Yep.
No, I just think I want you to brainstorm it. Like, I really want you to let it fly, even if it's weird, but think about how it fits under those strategic objectives.
Yep.
And I think it's important for your voices to be in the middle of this as you're reaching out as a community and hearing different things or seeing different things. Like Francesca and I had that conversation about communication. We have that strategic objective. Now, what's that goal look like? Or what do 2 goals look like? Or what does one goal with, 4 activities connected to it look like? So, and again, those goals will drive the school improvement planning for the buildings. So that's another kind of dot connected, but also a support in that foundation. We'll have a really strong foundation moving forward. And the more we can get that out there, and once this book I'm going to get this book actually color printed as well. It will be really cool to put out there and give to people, like, say, this is our school district. This is who we are. I think it's a great move forward, but I really encourage you to think openly, and you don't have to look at it and say, oh, we need to do something with teaching and learning, and this is what it should be. It might be something just totally off the wall, but I want to bring that back to the leadership team and have them use what they come up with and what you come up with, and really come up with a set of goals that will support our future.
Other questions? All right, excited for the homework?
Yes, I love homework.
Yeah, don't get nervous when you see the sheet. It's It's bigger than, there's a lot more information on there for you, so you have it in one spot.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. And I'll just say, although I didn't actually know that we were going to be getting homework, but I do think it's actually, you're going to have, because similarly, you're going to have some big homework because you're all going to be writing
Yes.
your superintendent evaluation, but it's all very related. It's
Yes.
all, you're going to have all kinds of goals, you know, floating around in your mind, so it's going to be very, I think that makes sense to have them at the same time. Okay.
But come on, it's the end of the year. My daughter
is?
says.
In Julia's
I'm like,
mind.
it's not even May yet.
Almost. Okay. Next up, speaking of the evaluation process, Eric is presenting, do you want to talk? You want me to talk about the? I guess I just want to introduce this, for the process. So, all of you should have, gotten, from me already, all of the information that you need in order to complete the superintendent evaluation, except for this. This is the final piece that you need. And when you're doing that evaluation, you're going to need to have, you know, the superintendent's goals and all the forms that I sent you, and also this evidence, which I assume you're going to give us a little bit of info about it.
Yeah,
But the thing about this that you need to understand is that this does not represent every single bit of work that the superintendent did during the year. What this represents are what he chose to present to us as examples of the various goals and indicators that, you know, we are looking to evaluate. So these are representative samples. It's quite extensive. I don't know if all of you got the opportunity to click through it, but there is a lot here. But again, just keeping in mind that it isn't meant to be, you know, every single thing that he did. So, all right.
Okay. So, well, I won't spend a lot of time on this. You've seen part of this already when we did the mid-year, but the format's the same, where on the top side are my goals, and then as you get down to page 4, I actually break out the 4 standards that are in the rubric for superintendents, and these are ones that we kind of agreed upon back in, I think it was October 6th. So a lot of this outlines the bigger work that we were doing along the way as we were figuring out how to manage data, how to get $15 million to build schools, how to drive the Cutler School project forward, how to connect with people in our communities, both at the political level and also at the kind of the home front level, people who may not be connected to the school district directly anymore, whether their kids are already left us and they're living in the community, or that they've been here for 70 or 80 years, and that those are important pieces of this. So I tried to get as much information as possible within the links, and there are things, some of the things you've seen, some we've added, like the strategic plan is new. We're doing interventions in Panorama. So for example, one of the things that work has driven is 9th grade at the high school decided, hey, we're going to do the MTSS because we have some pieces in place. We have some things that we can do. So they were the first to jump into Panorama and actually build goal sets for individual kids to be able to have a group of teachers meet with individual students and say, you're having difficulty here. Let's set a goal for 4 weeks from now, and we'll do check-ins 2 times. So Panorama allows us to do that, and also sends reminders to say, hey, you got to check in with Julia Campbell on this. So that Panorama has been super helpful, but still growing for us. We've been able to pull data sets into Panorama. Dibbles is in there, attendance is in there, discipline is in there, academic scores are in there. We can bring in other things like iReady is in there now. MCAS scores are in there now. So we really have a solid picture of individual kids. And as you know, this year, for the first time ever, we sent out Dibble scores to elementary parents just to say, here's what we're doing with Dibbles, and here's what where we're heading. And I know somebody's gonna ask, but we'll do that presentation. I think it's the first one, I think it was the first one in June. I think it's either, it's in one of the next 2 meetings, I forget off the top of my head, but we will be doing that presentation about
Yeah, I asked.
where we're at.
Yeah.
Right. Keep in mind, we've been using the Coherence Guidebook as a basis for the work that we do, which came from the state, which also is directly integrated with the MTSS process. So that's, if people are wondering, like, where did this process come from? The Coherence Guidebook will help with that, so I included that. We talked about, expectations. I talk a lot about some of the things we've moved forward, like we have instructional vision. This is, I'm still calling it a draft, only because what we're seeing now is our departments, our individual departments, and the first one I saw this morning was science. They're crafting instructional visions related to this, which is something that's never been done here, which is an expectation of the state. So we're actually kind of getting in line with the expectations of the state as well. We were part of the UDL Academy for the state this year. We've done a lot of work with teachers with Universal Design for Learning, which helps, again, examine barriers, helps teachers to find ways to remove those barriers or design lessons and opportunities for kids to learn to meet the needs of all the kids in the room. So we're continuing that work. And then when you go into management and operations, it's really, I guess it's a perspective for me of the little things that you got to get done, but they're not like teaching and learning. But the management piece is really still, we're managing all these different processes, like the strategic planning process. One of the things my mentor said to me was, there's no way you're going to get it done. Your window's too short. Well, that's all he had to say. So we got it done, and he was impressed with that
challenge
as well, just because to be able to get that far forward and use all the information we have to connect the dots is an important piece of the puzzle. And I think it's really new for us to be able to look at things and say, hey, these things are similar. Things are starting to connect together. MSBA process will continue. We go Monday, actually, and I don't think I put that in here. We go Monday for the review for the OPM with the state to the MSBA. MSBA kind of has the final say of our OPM selection. Once that's done, we'll move forward, and we'll have a presentation by our OPM for this group so that you can see what they do, how they do it, what their expectations are. They'll show actual timelines for when we go for financing, when we look at design, bring in the design team, look at financing, how things will move forward. So they'll give us a better picture once they're on board. They've been great so far. Securing funds, I guess if you were at home, if you're at town meeting, you have that as evidence, as for that process. Implementation of CKLA is kind of a management thing for me because I'm not directly involved, but I do swim through a lot of the data. I spend a lot of time with Director of Teaching and Learning, just really figuring out, okay, where are things happening well, and then how do we take the things that are happening well and bring them to a place they might not be happening as well. So we're starting, those discussions. And then professional development evaluation, we move that system to Vector TeachPoint. That's been a really fast learning curve. Our teachers have actually figured it out fairly quickly. And it's cumbersome. It's a little bit, it's not perfect, as we knew that going into it, but it has given us an opportunity and a place for people to have all their information. So if you take professional development, you request it through that system, you get approved by your supervisor, you take the professional development, you get a certificate when you're done, and that stays with you. You also have a transcript that you can print out now. So when you go for certification as a teacher, you have a transcript of everything you've done in our district, and it can be Wednesday professional development days. We load that in automatically for our teachers so that they get that as part of their professional development and growth process. If they take a course, anything like that, it also helps us now to have a one-stop shop for determining movement on the salary scale, which we didn't have. It was like the most cumbersome process. It's still a little interesting, but now we can at least print out one document. Here's everything this teacher has under their professional development and move forward. The second half of that is also the evaluation system. Evaluation system is also built into TeachPoint. Evaluation system is now fully electronic here. Everything is on Vector TeachPoint. We've learned some lessons along the way. I think the initial way we set it up was a bit cumbersome for teachers. You know, in talking to them, they gave us some good feedback about, you know, maybe we don't need 6 of these, maybe just 1. So we're currently in the process of streamlining that process for next year. So we've been working back and forth between, okay, how's it going? What's working, what's not working, and we'll continue to work that through. And then we just moved our entire accounting system, Budget Sense, into the cloud. Sorry, Vinny. I waited till the budget was done until we moved it. We moved it in March. Quite a process, and thank the tech team, because that's a lot of data. A lot of gigabytes of data got moved over, and a lot of information has to be checked and verified and triple checked, and Vinny and his team, and Alan Topier and his team, and then the team at Tyler Technologies really, it actually went fairly smoothly. I don't think any major hiccups. There's just more of next steps now are training staff, and I think if you remember when I presented this, the reason we did this is to pull some of our systems online. So staff members can now log in and they'll be able to see, all right, how many sick days do I have? How many personal days do I have? And then they can also request a day off. It can be actually requested by the staff member and sent automatically to their supervisor for approval, and then queued. And then once it happens, it actually removes it from the system. So now we don't have to go in manually and say, okay, Mr. Frankel had, you know, Monday was a personal day. We'd have to go in and look that up, click it in there. It will happen smoothly.
It saves a lot of friction.
Yeah, it saves a lot of friction, takes a lot of friction out of the equation.
Less triplicate forms.
Yeah,
Yeah.
believe it or not, I let the triplicate forms run out, so we're moving for the next 2 months on paper, just so we get everybody trained. So those are some of the management things that are going on. Student engagement has been, as you know, an important piece for me, like family and community, and trying to be out there, trying to be in schools, trying to be at community events, trying to be at meetings, you know, just last
Not
night.
trying, being.
Yeah, just last night,
At every
NHS, to be able to kind of be in the middle of it. I mean, that's really why we're here. So it's fun. It's fun to get. I wish I could go to more things. I just don't have the ability.
Well, you're not a clone.
But
You
it's,
haven't cloned yourself yet.
This is really kind of all those different things
Right.
of ways we've included parents and students and people in the community. We're actually now saying to our principals, like, I want students on these hiring committees. We want their voice on, you know, committees. So those are things that you'll see. And we talked about the leadership retreat last year, how the process of strategic planning went. You can see each of the meetings. Select board, the transparency that Vinny and I talk about a lot. We continue, you know, and you heard it again at town meeting if you were there, that we continue to be more and more transparent with the information that we have, and we'll continue to get better and learn from each of the meetings we attend. Town meetings, you can, if you want to watch the presentations, those are on there. But the special town meeting in October, where we were able to land $1.2 million to move to the feasibility, that was huge. I think even bigger, the stabilization fund was big for this district, for the school district. And then now moving into April, where we were able to land not only the school budget, but also the field improvement, the athletic facilities improvement planning, building process. I'm also involved in, I go to Ed Fund and report, usually twice a year. This year I've only been once so far. I'm on the board of the Essex County Learning Community, which is an advisory board for them. Really gives me a look into opportunities that are free for our district. Essex County Learning Community actually offers professional development to most of the communities, the school districts in Essex County that's targeted. So I can call them up and say, I really need help with DEIB stuff, and they can say, okay, we have this specific program, we'll set it up, and this is how it works. So as an example, we have 2 teams, 1 team from the middle school, 2 teachers and 5 students, and another team from the high school, 3 teachers and I think 3 students. They're going Wednesday of next week, May 3rd, I think it is, They're going to an all-day event to work together to build project-based learning opportunities. So kids and teachers now designing, not just teachers, and they'll be led through that process. So part of being on that board gives me a little inside line to opening up some doors for our people. I'm also on the Northeast Consortium Board. We meet every month to review and help them to plan and build and grow. And then really the shared responsibility stuff is the budget, SOA follow-up, working on agendas with our committee chair. I'm a member of the North Shore Superintendent's Roundtable, which meets once a month. Really gives me opportunities to connect with legislators about really important things like OSD, you know, the 14% increase in OSD. So part of that evidence is a presentation that we did at the legislative luncheon last month to really highlight the points that we find are starting to cause some friction for smaller districts, regional districts, and urban districts. Excuse me, rural districts, not urban districts. You're seeing smaller quantities of Chapter 70 funding coming to the smaller districts and some of the regional districts. So we've been able to make the push for the 14%, which we believe we have between $75 and $95 million locked in the current budget sessions that will come to districts. The thing we don't know is what's the mechanism to get at it. We are concerned that, you know, smaller districts like us may not be able to access it because we don't have enough. It's connected to circuit breaker. We don't have enough things to offset it to get the money. So we're still working on that, but things like special education, we all feel the same pinch where special education costs seem to continue to rise and regular education costs seem to be getting cut back. So we're trying to work with them on those realities and get them to fund higher levels for Chapter 70, for circuit breaker, for transportation, those types of things. So you'll see information in there on that. Policy, the 3 subcommittee meetings, I attend just about all of them. I think I missed one this year because I think I forgot it, but it was
Probably attending something else.
yeah. I know. No, honestly, I think I did. I think I forgot. I don't remember. I'd have to ask Anna. But and then really talks about the reflections. Really talk about that work and the work that's been going along the way, with some other links and things for you to look at. And then professional culture is really the things that I've been able to do kind of on the self side, if you will, not selfish, but self-growth. And I think in my second year as superintendent, I've continued to learn a lot from my mentor, continued to learn a ton from the superintendent's induction program, so that information's in here. I think communications, that weekly update is something I hear about every time I go somewhere. Somebody says, I love that update. I know everything. I didn't realize all these things were going on, and now I know what's going on at every level and blah, blah. So that's helpful, and I think the principals have followed that as well, where we're seeing that they're getting information out as well. So the induction program, and then the Leading Now cohort, which was in Atlanta. I was accepted to that national superintendent's group. There were 15 of us across the nation. I went to that and loved it. It blew me away. Had a great connection with 14 other superintendents from across the country. We are now in a cohort. We're in cohort 8, and we meet, you can see the dates on here. We meet specifically to go over topics related to equity for our schools. But we also do individual workshops, so you can see some of them listed there, you know, on February 14th, which happened to be my birthday. We were Loving You as You Lead Now. So they did a very cute little, like, you know, taking care of yourself as you lead your school districts. Things like leveraging your personal narrative. What is your personal narrative, right? If you've never written a personal narrative, take a shot at it. It's actually a little bit uncomfortable, but it's a good driver for moving yourself forward. Crisis communications, they also give me the opportunity to reach out. If I need help with crisis communications, I have for the next year free access to a national group that does crisis communications across the board. So if we have a major event, I can call up and get support right away. I mean, they reach out super quickly. So just some of the little things I'm doing kind of behind the scenes, learning more about the budget, taking advantage of MASS, the Mass Association of Superintendents of Schools, to be able to gain some information about the budget or some advanced knowledge about next year's budgets. And then the narrative here just explains a lot of that. So I'm hoping this gives you enough information. And certainly I encourage you, if you know or hear something else about me or something you've seen that I may not read here, I mean, encourage you to write about it. Whether it's good or bad. I mean, realistically, you know, feedback's important for me to be able to continue to grow and you know, get better, and that makes us all better as we go. I do want to say that some of the key actions near the top where the goals are, many of them say complete, and others will say next steps, you know, professional development. We put the vector system in, now we're going to next steps with that. Some will say ongoing. Reviewing data through an equity lens is not going away. So that's why it says
Right, it's never
ongoing.
gonna
So I just
go
wanted to touch base on some of those. So realistically, if they say ongoing, we're continuing that work. So you'll see connections through our goals. Okay, sorry, that's it.
That was great, thank you. All right, does anyone have any questions? There's, like I said, there'll be a lot of time for you to spend a lot of time with this document. Does anyone have any questions about it?
I have one just comment. I really appreciate the reflections section of it, only because it kind of contextualizes for us
Yeah.
the work. So I love that it's not just like, I completed this goal. I mean, I know you would never just do a checklist, but I think you're making our job easier by contextualizing it and putting it into the bigger picture. So I appreciate that. And I also, you know, I love the weekly updates. I always tell you. Love them.
Yeah, they're very good.
David, did you have something?
Yeah, I was just going to comment that it's an exhausting level of activity, and I don't
Well,
have,
it's not May yet.
I quite frankly have
I
no
know, you're
idea
like,
how you
how is
fit
this
it all
not
in.
5 people doing this?
But yeah, I applaud the enormous level of effort and commitment that you clearly show. That's truly deeply appreciated.
Thank you. I think it's important to note there are a lot of people involved in this bind. This is not just me. Realistically, you know, I'm gonna push to get this software. I'm gonna say Vinny has the bill, and then work with it. And in this district, we're so small, we all have 4 or 5 jobs. Like Vinny does probably 5 jobs. I have 4 or 5 different things that I'm responsible for. Jen Clifford has 4 or 5 things that she's responsible for outside of our regular roles. So it's just a product of small school districts. So there's a lot going on and being driven by a very small number of people.
Absolutely. Anybody else?
Yeah, thank you.
No? I have like just a really concrete, I'm like, as I'm, you know, planning for everyone, you know, especially the couple of people that haven't done this before, this, I just want to, and I think I gave you this feedback actually last year too, like this format is actually quite helpful just in terms of what we are being asked to do. This format works. It works nicely, it's easy to use, and that's just helpful. It's certainly not required that you put it into this format for us, but it helps that you do. It works nicely with what we're asked. In the interest of feedback, in that feedback, there is one tiny thing that would have been more useful, which is that in Standard 2, if you scroll down, all the rest of them, you were really explicit about the indicators. And again, this is very nitpicky. This is really just concrete.
See,
but
we're
like
getting used to him doing
exactly.
it for us.
Well, no, and because I really was like, oh, he's done all the work for me. I don't have to do it. And then I was like, oh, but not here. I have to do it here. So I guess it's not really a criticism. It's really more of a comment on how appreciative I am that it is listed
Yep.
very explicitly in all the other places. Because I know when I've been in that, you know, trying to do the rubric, and that, you know, it's nice to have it right in front of you, because
Yeah.
otherwise you have to keep looking it up. So,
And I think, can I take a second just to show people that, now that you
yes.
said that?
Yep.
So, Standard 2,
It's, yeah.
I'm going to back up, I just want to take a step back. So on the top, there is a link that says the superintendent evaluation rubric. That's the current one. I
Yep,
heard it's
which-
changing
And which
again.
you guys already have. They
Yep.
have that.
So if you scroll to the standards, you can see the indicators on the left-hand side. You're really open to comment on those things. If you see evidence or have evidence, you can comment on those things. I don't know why I didn't for management operations. I think because,
You certainly have, like, that you have them in your,
Yeah.
in your goals. They just weren't on the summative, which is not required. You're not required to put them on there. I just, in other words, you have, like, you do have, you know,
yeah,
so.
yep.
Thank you for making our job a lot easier.
I can actually fix it because there are,
Just having the data all in one place, you know.
if you go back to my original goal form, they're
Yes.
in here. I can actually fix it. It's
Yeah.
not a big deal. So standard 2, those are in there. I can just shift them under.
No,
there.
and again, like, when you guys get it, you'll see
Oh, I
that
did that.
it is on what you guys already have as the superintendent goals, and it will be, again, listed in the pre-filled out rubric, because I already did it, so it's in there. But anyway, I'm just saying that this is, you're making it very easy for us and
To find
to
what we
find and
need.
to have
yeah,
that.
And what it
It's-
relates to, because that, I feel like when I first did a superintendent evaluation, I struggled to, I had so much data and so many stories and so much communication, but I was struggling to place it
Yes,
inside the rubric. So this is helpful to be like, you can do what you want with this data, but this data goes with this particular piece of the rubric, which is very, very helpful.
exactly. So, thank you for that.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
No questions.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you so
Um,
much.
All right, next up, subcommittees. So we have a few different things, I have a lot of scribbled notes here on a few different things that we need to reconstitute subcommittees for the new year. We have a new member. I'm going to start with a little bit of leftover business from our last meeting. We reconstituted this committee, and we did chair and vice chair, and there was a discussion. We elected Francesca as our new secretary, and we talked about that in the past. We've had a vice secretary, and there was some talk about someone who wasn't there to defend herself.
I accept.
So if everyone is willing, I think we need to have a vice secretary, and I will take nominations for that.
I nominate Julia for vice secretary.
Julia, would you accept that nomination?
Yes.
Are there any other nominations for vice secretary? Okay. All right, all those in favor? All right, and that is unanimous, and the motion passes. Did we even get a motion? Do we need a motion?
Oh,
You did move.
I-
Yes, you did. No, you did.
I didn't move,
You nominated.
You
You
nominated.
nominated
I
me.
think we did it. All right. All right, thank you, Julia. I appreciate it.
Sure, of course.
And so, obviously, the biggest role is that if our secretary is unavailable, then you'll jump right in, so thank you. So on the subcommittees, we have 3 existing subcommittees, so, which are policy, negotiations, and capital finance.
It's actually policy and legislation. I hadn't realized that.
Okay,
Yeah,
well, thank you.
just
I stand corrected.
That's all right.
Policy and legislation. I asked just as a starting point, and it may, I'm going to just say, be our ending point, because it was super easy. I asked you all, and everyone got the homework and did the homework, and nobody replied to all, and that was great. So I asked everyone to say what committee they would prefer to be on, and then I think almost everyone said that they had a preference and gave me a specific, but then they also said, I'm willing to do other things. But if I were to just go, I should have made a slide or whatever, but you can all hold it in your mind. This is what I got, because it may just be as easy as this. So for capital finance, the people who said they would prefer to be on that are Jen, Julia, and Francesca. Negotiations were Dana, David Polito, and Amy. Policy legislation is David Frankel. If we just stick with what everybody asked for, we need 2 more people to jump in and say they want to be on policy. And that could just be as easy as that. Now, if you guys have other discussion
I can be on
points-
policy.
What'd you say?
I could be on policy.
Okay, policy should be, David, I'm very glad and very appreciative that you're willing to stay with that, because as you
Yeah.
know, we had, Anna did that for a long time. It's important to have some consistency, someone that was there.
Sure.
I don't imagine it's going to be the same kind of heavy lift that it was last year.
No, it was kind of.
Hope not.
Exactly. That's right. I think
You have some
Francesca.
yeah.
update, though.
Yes, it was a heavy.
All right, so
lift.
I'm here, I'm,
But I still want to be on capital finance.
right, no, well,
Okay.
so I should have prefaced this by saying that we, on a 7-person committee, when you need 3 people in each one, each year, 2 people need to do 2. And we typically don't have the people do it 2 years in a row. So that was Amy and myself were on 2.
I've only been on one committee ever.
Okay, so Julia's
I'm happy to be on two.
jumping at policy.
Okay.
All right, all right.
Go ahead.
Looks like you
Yeah.
want to arm wrestle for it?
I mean, I'm interested in, yeah, I'm happy to be part of the policy committee too. If
Okay.
That's okay.
All right.
If it,
All right, so I'm hearing, and I'm going to read this, and we will need a motion, but let me just read what I have, and people can hear what we have for the existing committees. I'm hearing, potentially, we would have in policy and legislative, David Frankel, Julia, and Francesca. Negotiations would be Dana, David Polito, and Amy. Capital Finance would be Jen, Julia, and Francesca, and that would mean that we would have Julia and Francesca would be jumping into 2 subcommittees.
Fine.
All right. Anybody have, are we feeling like, because I think we do need to have
I
a.
feel like I'm cheating. I just know policy's not going to be as hard as it was last year.
Yeah, no, it was.
It can't be harder than that.
It was
Right, yeah,
Look at the meeting list that it was in.
Oh
I
my
think-
Gosh.
just routine and not
Yeah,
enough
no, that's
creativity.
fine.
but that, I mean, and again, that's the way things, I mean, in other words, you know, I was on negotiations last year. It wasn't a particularly heavy lift. This
it might
coming
be
year,
a-
it's going to be, thank you,
Job?
brutal. Let's
going
go with
to be
something
brutal.
Busy.
Busy.
Busy was the word.
That's a nice word.
The other B word.
Exactly. All right. Francesca, do you feel like you can make that motion, or do you want me to read it again? And
so I just wanted to make sure that I captured all the finance people. That would be Julia Campbell, me, and Jen Carr, right? So these 3, okay. So I think I wrote them. But, so how to word the motion here? So I motion to, that the Hamilton Wenham Regional School Committee nominates
I
or
think we appoint.
appoints. Okay, I move that the Hamilton Wenham Regional School Committee appoints for the Policy and Legislation Subcommittee, so David Franco, Julia Campbell, and Francesca Connors for the upcoming year.
Do you have a second?
Second.
All right. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor? All right, and the motion passes. All right, keep going.
Okay, and then I move that the Hamilton Wenham Regional School Committee appoints, hold on, I'm gonna go up and down, and appoint Jen Carr, Julia Campbell, and Francesca Connors for the Finance Subcommittees for 2023-2024.
Second.
Second by Jen Carr. All those in favor? That is unanimous of the 6 members present.
Like if it's your own motion, I feel like
That
you should have it.
is-
Yes.
She didn't want to be on that.
Multitasking.
All right, one more.
All right, and then I move that the Hamilton Wenham Regional School Committee appoints Dana Lara, David Polito, and Amy Kungberger for the negotiation subcommittee for 2023 and 2024.
Second.
Second by Jen Carr. All right, all those in favor? All right, and that's unanimous of the 6 members present, and the motion passes. Okay. Excellent. Okay. So, can I, so typically, we have done liaison, could you put up, actually, can you put up the website? Yeah, would you mind putting up the website with the front page or the?
Our
school
website?
Our website, yeah.
Yep.
So typically, we've done liaisons, and I actually had, I'm gonna just trust if you scroll down and see the school committee, there they are. I don't know if you can make that big enough so people can see it. So I had some thoughts and talked to Eric a little bit about, you know, how we have these liaisons, we all signed up for them. Do we really make good use of them? I'm gonna say no. I have mixed feelings about, I feel like some of them we really still need to have a liaison, even if we're not necessarily, you know, because one never knows when it might become an important item. So this is the list that we currently have. I'm going to sort of open it up to discussion about, you know, brief discussion, I guess, about whether the committee feels like we need all of these, some of these. We certainly can just do it, and if we don't need them, one of the things, and you know, one of the potential things I had sort of said is, you know, maybe if we really, like, if we really want to do this, like, in other words, if Amy is the Hamilton Board of Selectmen, which isn't even called that anymore, it's the Select Board, that maybe we put it on an agenda and ask for Amy to give us an update, you know? The reality is some of the schools, we get good updates from the superintendent and from our student representative. So we might not need an update. I don't know whether we need a liaison. Maybe, like maybe there's, so anyway, I'm gonna stop talking and see what people think.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying, especially with the, in my experience with the elementary school last year when we made these choices, I reached out and, you know, I was like, I'm the liaison to the Winthrop School, like, let me know how I can help. But I feel like there's not direction on what that help is or like what that chain of communication is. So I don't know if there's a reason that we could tie to like a communication goal maybe to have this liaison.
Why don't we ask the principals if they want a liaison or not?
Well, I mean, I reached out to the principal then and said, you know, but
I mean, I'm just saying, if the principals think it's a useful person to have in that position, then we should probably keep it. If they don't, then
Yeah, I mean, it's a good point, although it's a two-way street, right? Are we
agree.
finding it useful or not?
I
And
agree it's a
yeah,
two-way street,
right.
but like,
Yeah,
you know, we might not find it useful, but a principal may feel really good that they have somebody they can contact if they need to.
it's a valid point.
I think it was,
Yeah.
if I go back to when I was principal of the high school, and go back before COVID, those liaisons were specific to the Friends groups, and we're really carrying information from the Friends group, school committee, Friends group. So for instance, budget time, when we're presenting the budget, as the liaison, you would go to the Friends meeting and present to that Friends group, here's the budget for blah, 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 just before town meeting, like we did that this year. That's how it used to work, and then I think it shifted away. I don't know that a principal would say, you know, I gotta call my school committee member for something when I say to them, you need to go through me to get to the school
Right.
committee. So,
I will say that was years ago, so maybe Eric and I are sort of talking about the same time frame. Like when I was very involved in the Friends, that was the experience, was that once a year, a school committee member would come to our meeting and talk about the budget ahead of town meeting, so that the Friends group would be knowledgeable about the budget.
I think
That
it's-
doesn't happen.
That's sort of how I
Yeah.
saw it too.
Huh?
I saw it more as us maybe more selfishly pushing information out or being a presence at the Friends
Yeah.
Right, to
group.
answer questions or,
Right,
you
to
know,
show them that we're involved. And like, I certainly have not attended every Friends of Bucher meeting that I could, but I'm on the list and, you know, presenting to them about the budget. But the other thing is, I was thinking maybe we could do, like we do committee updates, maybe we could do liaison updates.
Sure.
And then if anyone has an update, now the wellness committee, I don't think it's met, or if it did meet, I don't really know what happened. But certainly if I had an update, I would present it during
and I
like maybe
guess-
liaison updates.
Right, and I guess maybe that's sort of something that, like, we can do, is to maybe test it out this year, like, let's sort of say, okay, well, let's see if and maybe we'll discover that some of these are more useful than others, right? That-
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
being at the master plan is important.
Yes, I think that, yes, and I mean, from right now, for example, I'm the Hamilton and David is the Wenham, I mean, they're not, I can't just walk out of that committee at this point, like,
Right.
we're kind of there already.
Yeah, and
So,
it's
you know.
coming to a head, at least the Wenham one is, I'm not
Yeah.
sure where the one is.
Yeah.
But it seems like it may be helpful, this is a great conversation, and thank you for this. So it may be helpful to kind of clarify what is exactly the role for each of this committee, maybe as part of the communication plan or something. Because like, for example, I was confused too. I'm glad that the superintendent just clarified, like for the Friends, I wasn't sure if the communication was for them. I mean, if the role of that liaison is to be there and listen and hear them and bring here and update the group for something, and if so, for what? I mean, is there a place where that is, or can that be sort of explained so that people that are new and come over to these roles, they would know even in the future what they are
And I-
supposed to do, and or vice versa?
Right.
Is it us to go there and deliver to them information and keep them updated with what our activities are? So
I think
those-
historically
it would be helpful to have that roadmap.
You know, it really was for us to
Uh-huh.
provide them with information, but there's no, they certainly could and did ask questions and make comments that then could be brought back
Mm-hmm. Right,
here, because obviously the Friends groups are, you know, the Friends groups aren't, I mean, I don't know which ones, they don't meet in the same way that they did pre-COVID. It's just a little bit different,
Right.
you know, they don't.
Been very different, yeah.
It's been, yeah, so that doesn't mean that, so anyway, I don't want to spend too much time, I guess my question is, do we want to, I guess initially I was like, well, maybe we don't, I don't see a lot of harm in putting names on here and saying, well, you've signed up for this, and then we can maybe fine tune what we actually want the person to do. I don't know what people think.
And there might be seasons, you know, like
Correct.
there's definitely a season where certain, like the athletic facilities improvement, that's a big
Right.
season, right? Or there might be some things that are not really happening right now. But I think if we, and also CPAC, we'd have to, I don't know if CPAC wants another.
Right, well, there's two Annas on
Representative.
there.
Oh, right,
so there are
Cutler.
two
Right.
things that would
Yeah.
definitely need to be.
Replaced.
And
Yeah,
I guess what I'm
CPAC.
thinking about now is that, like the strategic plan, you know, maybe if you have someone, even if, you know, in other words, at least we have someone to say when suddenly we need to communicate, let's say with the elementary schools,
Right.
we can say, well, we know who it is, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, when it's all hands on deck, like when it's budget time,
Yeah.
when there's something we need to talk about. I think if we just have on the agenda, like under committee reports, liaison reports, and maybe there's none, and maybe there was a master planning meeting that we,
Right.
need to know about.
I mean, certainly select boards, there's
Right.
Yeah.
gonna be, and same thing, CPAC would, you
Yeah.
know, I actually.
I would really love to be
Personally, I'm
kept up
not
to
very
date with that.
knowledgeable about CPAC.
Right.
It's helpful to have somebody, I appreciate when they come to present to us.
Yep, I just met with them the other day.
Is there an active wellness committee?
Probably, and I probably am the worst liaison possible, because I missed an email and then, but I'm on the emails. I definitely missed a meeting.
I actually, Julia, I just.
But there is an
Julia-
active
Julia's
committee.
kind of beating herself up over there, but what I actually
Well,
feel like
find
I
out
started
who's
this
on it.
conversation that, like, this is a shared thing that the liaisons in general just weren't really something that we spent a ton, we as a committee.
Yeah.
Spent a lot of time on, so that doesn't mean we can't.
Maybe we can talk about it more in the retreat. I know we have 1,000 things to talk about,
So
but
I guess I'm gonna put forward and see what I'm gonna put forward, and again, that wasn't where I was going initially, that maybe we should just get names on here. And then we can speak later on in more detail about roles, or whether some of these may or may not be exactly what we do.
Yeah, fair.
Does that seem fair?
Yeah.
All right,
You want nominations or?
well, so let's look up there.
Well, certainly we need to
What'd you say?
replace Anna Sidzik with somebody else.
I was gonna say.
That's an obvious
Yeah,
one.
I was gonna say, there is two places where Anna is up there, and we
Yeah.
have one person whose name is not up there, so.
Yes.
Check.
I'm happy to take the CPAC, actually attend that meeting regularly.
Okay.
So
Great.
if there's anything that needs to be done in that area, I'm happy
All
to.
right.
And what about
You
To
can't help
liaison.
that, right? 'Cause
And the
that's
Cutler,
website.
well, my kids are Winthrop, but I'm happy to participate to the Friends of Cutler and report or do whatever needs to be done there.
I'm sorry, so you would,
Okay.
you're saying you could you're willing to be Cutler as well
Yeah,
as.
well, because Anna Cizik was there. My kids are not at Cutler, so I usually attend the Friends of Winthrop meetings,
Yep.
but I'm happy to attend,
don't
with
know
a certain
that we have
frequency.
any-
The Cutler, the Friends of Cutler. I don't think we have Cutler.
In the past,
Yep.
but not
Yeah,
currently.
so I'm happy to do it.
Yeah, we don't have any Cutler parents.
Yeah. My kids went to Cutler.
Get it.
So you'll be an alumni parent.
I nominate Dean.
All right, so if I'm reading you correctly, I'm hearing that Francesca has a willingness to sort of take over the two spots that Anna has.
Yeah, if that's okay with
Yeah.
everybody. I just,
Sure.
for me, I mean, I go to the
Does anybody
CPAC
else
meetings
looking
anyways.
At your own
so-
name up there, feel comfortable or uncomfortable wanting to change, wanting to trade, wanting to talk about what you're on?
I'm good.
And we'll clean this
Colin
up.
still
Yeah.
has several years at Bucher, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, take the selectman thing, piece off. The athletic facilities improvement is now actually
Right, it's
a meeting committee now. It's a building committee, I mean,
It's a
excuse me.
different thing. So
Yep.
does that mean Jen is not gonna continue to go
No,
to
I'm
the-
still on the committee.
She's on,
Yeah.
she's
On
on
the
the building.
committee.
Yeah.
Now that it's divided into.
It'll probably
two
be
boards and
between
stuff.
her and Eric. for
Oh, I don't
updates.
work, we don't work with the,
AFIC
Finance.
group,
Right,
yeah.
you're just on the one.
just on the buildings.
Yeah, we have, the school side is just the building
Yep.
committee, and then the outside
Yep.
private group is the HWAFIC group.
Um, Jump around a little.
Do a little dance.
Okay, so, yeah, it needs a little, obviously, the select board needs to be updated and then
Yeah.
the name. All right, does somebody want to make a motion? Doesn't have to be Francesca, somebody else could jump in.
Francesca, I don't know your last name. How do you pronounce it?
Honors.
Connors? Okay, I can't see. I need my readers.
Okay.
I move, oh, do you want to move?
Go ahead.
Want to do it?
Nope, go ahead.
Okay. I move that Francesca Connors be the school, I almost said Supreme Court for some reason.
Liaison.
The school committee liaison to the CPAC and to Cutler Elementary.
Second.
Seconded by Jen Carr. Is there any further discussion?
Nope.
All those in favor? And that is unanimous of the 6 members present, and the motion passes. All right, and do we feel like we need a vote to stay where we are on the rest of them? I don't feel like we do.
No.
We did
All
that
right,
last
and, all right, we're already there. All right, and sounds like you're volunteering, Jen, to update the website.
Yes. She was the one frantically waving around back there.
She was like, me, pick me, I'll do it.
Okay, thank you for working through that with me. All right, does anybody have any other thoughts on subcommittees or liaisons or anything similar at this point? Okay. All right, moving right along. Speaking of committees, committee reports.
What about number
There's-
9?
Capital Finance was.
We haven't
nothing,
met.
no,
Passed the budget.
And policy.
We passed the budget, yeah.
Yeah, good.
Success.
Negotiations, so we have a meeting on Wednesday, on the
Third.
3rd. And we anticipate, we actually are having a little bit of a scheduling issue for the next meeting, but we are anticipating soon thereafter getting a schedule set up to begin the negotiations with the newly formed TA union. I think that's it. Anything else? Did I miss anything? Nope. Yep. Okay. All right, and we're back to you, Eric.
Back to me again. Just a couple of things. I just wanted to go back to something I mentioned earlier. Monday, we go in front of the MSBA with our OPM, Owner's Project Manager. They will actually do a presentation that's fairly extensive about their capability to manage our project, given their other projects. So what they need to do for the MSBA is to show them, here are the projects we're currently working on, here are the timelines, here's the Cutler project, here's the timeline, and here's how we will assign our people to make those things all happen without being overstretched or without being kind of unable to meet the needs of each of the districts. They're working in, I think, 4 other districts as well, doing project management or design work. So they'll put all that out there. They'll put our timelines out there and they've tried to match them. I got a sneak preview of the presentation today. They'll try to match the timelines with what the expectations of the MSBA are. And then they go through this process of developing the timeline, next steps, and then comparatives to other projects. You know, I think they've done 9 or 10 other projects, maybe 12 other projects. These are projects we've completed successfully, and they'll talk about those a little bit. And then they'll open up themselves for questions from the MSBA staff. Generally, they're really about capacity, ability to handle the project, money. You know, we've already negotiated with them. We set the cost early in the process, if you remember the document that we approved. So we set that cost already and have negotiated a contract. That contract now is in the hands of the MSBA legal team. They've already vetted it. They've made a couple of tweaks to it. And then Monday is kind of the final piece of the process to wrap that up. Once the OPM is fully on board, they will then jump into hiring a designer with us. They will work with us to, we'll do the same thing we did for the OPM. We'll take a small subcommittee of the major building committee, put out an RFP, request for proposals. Designers will answer those proposals. Our subcommittee will respond to those as we outline the process, and then come down to, again, a designer, which we'll go through that same process of going back to the MSBA for approval. And then the designer and the OPM will work together to take us through the full feasibility cycle, which will be between now and I believe at April 2025, which is when we'll go to town meeting and say, okay, we're asking for the money. So there's a lot that will happen over the next 13 or 14 months, and we'll keep you up to date. Like I said, PMA will as soon as they're on board, we'll do a presentation here for us so that you can see what they're all about. And then they will help us to manage the bigger building committee and run those meetings as moving forward. So I feel a little more comfortable now that it's out of my hands somewhat, not completely, but it's just good to have help with Vinny, with putting together, they put together our bid documents, they put together our filing documents, so that takes a huge burden off of us. We really just have to double check and make sure the pieces fit together. So that's one big piece that's coming up. We have a number of appreciation days. We just had Wednesday was the Administrative Professionals Appreciation Day. That was Wednesday for all our administrative assistants, and then we'll move forward to Nurses Appreciation Day, which is next week, and then the week after that is Teacher Appreciation Week. Teacher Appreciation Day is actually Monday the 8th, I believe. So there are different activities to set up, little things that we give them appreciation, little trinkets and food mostly. You know, the friends groups come through hard, and they have all kinds of opportunities for teachers to eat and snack and to really send some appreciation. We're going to send some things out through the weekly that are like, you know, take the time to write a 3-line note to your teacher or to your school nurse, or because I think those are super valuable things when you're a teacher, when you're an administrator, and you're buried in, and all of a sudden you get this one note that says, "Thank you for doing this." You're like, "Oh, okay, fine." You know, so we're going to try to push something like that out, and then we're really getting into the end of the year stuff. So we have concerts coming up, end of the year concerts. We'll have graduation is right down the road, literally 5 weeks away when you start counting on the calendar. So all these exciting things are now coming at us like a freight train, and certainly encourage each of you to come to different events and see. They're really good culmination events. Like you come to the beginning of the year concert, and you go to the end of the year concert, and you're like, wow, big difference. That's huge. That's amazing. So just lots of things just really coming at us, and it's a fun time of year. It's also a worrisome time of the year. It's one of the more difficult time of the year for, I think, school administrators, because you worry about your kids all the time, especially your older kids going to proms and driving in all these weird places and all these different activities that will occur, going to, you know, the Red Sox games and things. So all of those things are coming at us, and I know Brian met with the senior class this morning and talked to them about, our annual speech. I did it, I think, for, let's see, 20 years almost. Be careful, take care of each other, make smart decisions, and really take advantage of everybody who's around you. So those types of conversations are already being had. There's just a lot coming. There's a lot coming at us, and it's a fun time of the year. It's also a little bit nerve-wracking, but we always ask for help from everybody. Brian sent a letter out to all the parents just to say, hey, remember, these are some important things to think about, and that includes things related to the prom. Like, we ask people not to rent rooms for their kids in the prom. It sounds like, who are we to tell people, but it's really, it becomes a problem more often than not. So, we're just trying to get everybody to work together, keep our kids safe at the end of the year, because there's a tiny window before we get there. June 3rd will be here before we know it. Hopefully you can all come to graduation. It'll be under the tent again this year. Could be last year, depending on the turf situation, but it's under the tent this year, and it's an exciting time. So that is the extent of my report.
Can I have a question?
Yeah.
With the engagement of MSBA together with the OPM, did you get any better or different view of an estimated first year of occupancy of a new school if it's built?
Not yet. Not yet. The kind of the easiest thing to say is we would ask for the money in 2025 and probably begin the bidding process. So in April 2025, we wouldn't access that money until July 1st, 2025. And then beyond that, we'd start probably the bidding process for construction. So then you're another probably 6 to 8 months out. So
they'd build it in
begin the process in maybe late 26.
And be ready for the first students in 2026, or
No, I
that's
would say from this point you're still in the 27, 28 range.
Okay.
It's a 2-year building cycle generally from bid to finish. It depends on a lot of things like weather, materials.
Sure.
Talking to the people that are building the Pentucket project, they run into materials issues and weird little things. So once we get the OPM on board and the designer on board, they'll be able to really lay the whole thing out. And say, here we are from start to finish. And
It'd be a very detailed
Yeah,
project
yeah,
plan.
yep.
Sure.
All right. Thank you. I do think that timeline is something that the community really kind of wishes
Yeah,
they
yeah.
had in hand, like, to know.
We'll have it
like,
soon.
yeah.
We'll have it soon.
So,
Yeah, there's a lot of devil in those details.
Yeah. thank you.
Things are changing all the time.
Okay. All right, anybody else have any other questions? No, all good? Okay, I don't think I have too much to actually report on. I do have a couple of things I want to, on the chair's report. Just sort of logistics. Next week, we have a meeting next week. Because of April vacation, we ended up with 2 in a row. My intent is to have, or what I'd like to do is have a workshop on next week that is completely voluntary. In the past, we've always had Dorothy come in and do a quick workshop on how to do the superintendent evaluation. I will just tell you that prior to Anna's departure, when she was the vice chair, I had a really good conversation with her in which I said to Anna, I don't feel like I need Dorothy. I feel like I can do, I was like, I know how to do it now. I feel like, so we had a good conversation. She felt, like that was logical, that, that I can come and invite people in, all the people that have done it before, and, to talk about, sort of, it's a little workshop just on how to actually do, there would be no content discussed. It would really just be how to actually go through an evaluation, and what you need to have in front of you and how to do it. And I laughed because the very first time we did it, I actually Julia and I were on the phone. We never talked about content, but the two of us
Trying to
both were
figure
just
out the
like,
form.
what forms do you have in front of you? How many, and I meanwhile, I don't know whether you did. I had every single thing
Yeah,
printed
spread out on the dining room
like,
table. And I was like, I don't know which form goes with which, I don't know which rubric
Exactly.
goes
So
with which.
it really is just talking about logistics. So I guess what I'm looking for is, my initial thought was, I'll do that. I'll offer that at 6 PM ahead of the school committee meeting. Then I had a conversation with our current vice chair about sort of the logistics of that. And I realized that I don't really know. In other words, it may be that Julia and Jen and David may feel like I don't really need to come to this, and so I'm going to just put it out. We can have that workshop at any time. So in other words, it doesn't have to be at 6 PM on the 4th. It does need to be a posted meeting, but the superintendent doesn't need to come. You're invited, I guess, if you want, but it's really just, so I guess it's really a scheduling thing that, like, I don't know who would like to come to that. I think, Francesca, again, I think it would be useful. But again, you're not going to actually do this for a whole
Yeah,
year.
that's the
So,
thing. Yeah, so,
so I guess I'm looking to the group to see, like, do you want to do that at 6 o'clock on the 4th? Or are there other times?
I probably wouldn't, just myself, I feel pretty confident.
Yep.
But if you want me there for institutional knowledge, I'm happy to come.
Thank you. I feel like I'm good, but thank you. Yeah. And I actually hope that feels good to people, to have other people say, like, no,
First
I'm
year,
good.
I
Like,
definitely would have wanted that.
And again, you're not you're not required, David, you're not required to come. I just,
No, I think it
Well-
sounds good. I like that idea. I think I can
Yeah.
do 6 on Thursday.
Well, if you do it, I'll come.
okay?
I mean, I haven't been through that cycle myself.
I
so-
think it will be really helpful.
Yeah.
Because when you start looking at I think that the evaluation itself is more complicated than it looks. Or it's less complicated than
Yes.
it looks.
Yeah.
It presents itself as more complicated. But it's really hard. Like, it's very challenging to put all the pieces together. And having someone like Dana to guide you through it, I think would be really, I know it was helpful for me when we tried to both figure it out together.
We were
But
like, I don't know.
It's
what-
helpful to have a person to ask questions of, I always think that's helpful.
Okay. All right, just,
it's in
and
my
and
calendar.
you're, again, totally voluntary. If you want to come, and be a voice of experience or not, that's fine. All right, so does 6 o'clock
that's
next week work? Maybe?
Yeah.
Okay, David?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, and that's fine.
All right, so,
May 4th.
Eric, we can just post that as it'll be just, we've done that
Be
for lots of
helpful,
things. It'll just be a
promise.
workshop first, and then the meeting will start at 7, just as usual.
May 19.
Sounds good.
Take care of it.
Okay,
I'm going
excited.
in late August.
excellent.
Fun.
I just had one more thing to ask the committee. And I should also say, I do want to make sure everyone has the retreat date on
Yeah.
your calendars, which is August 5th. I don't think we still have times, but we're doing, right? We don't have times.
6 AM to 6 PM.
Sounds
right?
perfect. I was going to start at 5:30, but if you're not tough enough to get there then.
That's my birthday, so can I bring cake?
Yeah.
Ooh,
Oh, we
of
should bring
course.
you
We could
cake.
bring you cake.
Bring you cake.
All right.
Leo.
Well, so you definitely want to start at 6 AM then.
Not go.
Oh, I'm going to a concert that night.
I think it
but
was like
I-
8 to 3
it's a
last
night.
Yeah, I think we
We'll
want
be done by-
something,
yeah.
right, like a
9 to 3, 8
9 to
3.
3 or
Yeah.
something like it is all day, but not
But yeah, we'll
12
bring
hours.
cake.
A lot of work to do.
So I just have a question about, I think we've had some good conversations about some of the things we are sort of thinking about that retreat. But I do know I had a conversation a while back with David Frankel regarding, like, do we want to, I think we should have some conversations about whether or not we want or need school committee goal or goals. I do think that should be a topic at that meeting. School committees sometimes have individual goals that are separate from the district goal and separate from superintendent goals. They don't always. When we did this last year, we actually didn't come up with specific goals. We actually created a mission statement because we didn't have one, and we were in sort of, in my mind, a moment of healing and moving forward, and the mission statement was pretty transformative for that. My conversation with David Frankel, which was a while back now,
Yep.
was around, do we think, or do we need our MASC representative, Dorothy, to come and help guide us on that conversation about whether we need school committee goals, and if we do, how to create them?
That's my question. Do we need goals? Is that required?
No, there is no requirement to have goals, and in fact, there have been years that we have not had goals. And I have spoken with Dorothy because we didn't have them when I started, and it was very confusing, so I have had a few conversations with her about what kinds of goals school committees typically, and they are specific to us, something that we would do. So like, you could have a goal that could be super concrete, like, let's just say that you were, well, here's a good example of one that we didn't do, but we could have, right? We could have said, our goal is to, purposefully plan to make sure our meetings are never more than 2 hours long, right? Like,
I want
would
that
be
goal.
that would be in the purview of the school committee, it would be
Right.
about the school committee, it would, it wouldn't be, it's not about the district or the superintendent or
Oh, so it's more about us as a working body.
us as a working body. There are certain things, and a great example of one that we didn't put as a goal, but man, we really could have and should have, would have been to do that policy review. That would be
Oh, yeah.
a great school committee goal, like, in the next year, we are gonna completely review.
Yeah.
We don't have to do that, because you guys already did it, but.
Could make that a goal and then
What's it,
check it
but
off.
I never understood still, what is the difference between the goals and the thing that we have signed? Like the, those are the, those are the
Protocols?
the
Protocols?
protocols.
So, that's a great.
That's more like
so
how,
the
that's how we operationalize the goals,
The protocols are really just
how we
how
operate.
we function.
Okay.
Right, our behavior, what we're committing
Our
to.
behaviors.
Right, exactly, they're sort of the, yeah. And we do, you're right, we do discuss and make sure that those still meet our needs every year. But a goal would be something that is unique, so I'm gonna use the policy just as an example because it's already happened, so we can't choose that. But it would have been an appropriate goal because it's something that is not being done by any other body in the district, right? Like, we wouldn't wanna have a goal that's like, the school committee is gonna improve second grade reading
Because that's a
scores,
district goal.
because that's,
You can,
Because
if
that's
it's
not in
on-
our,
right, but that, that's not our, right.
not control over
So
that.
I think the
But
question
whereas
is
the
if we want
policy review
Dorothy, I
would
don't,
be- I'm sorry. go
I
ahead.
don't necessarily think we need Dorothy to come. I think we can handle it. I love the idea of having school committee goals, like us as a body, as like a board of directors, if you will. Like, I think it's a good idea, but personally, I'm just speaking for me, I don't think we need Dorothy
Well,
there.
that-
I think we can do it
Right. So that
ourselves,
was,
but if
that
other
was kind of
people
my
want
question is,
her
what
there.
do, I do think we should have that on the agenda. I don't anticipate that it is the agenda for the day, but
Right, no.
But I wanted to, it was a good, David and I had a very good conversation about whether or not that would be useful, and we sort of decided in that conversation that we would bring it to
I
this
think it'd be-
body and
I would
ask
think it
what people
would be
think.
useful.
It's beside.
My
what
2
we-
cents.
I mean, we have a bunch of obligations that are routine, and so, that's not a goal.
Right,
It's
like, in
our-
other words, evaluating the superintendent
Yeah.
is not a goal, because
Yeah.
it's just,
Something we do.
we have to do that, right?
But outside of that, anything that we want to accomplish for the year as a committee, that would be the right place to put.
Correct.
that. And that should be, I think, the temptation to have Dorothy is to define, well, how do you define a goal? That it's specific and it's measurable and has a time
Yeah.
commitment to it. So,
Right, so was that, that was well put, but I'm still not sure whether you're feeling like, oh, we definitely need Dorothy, or are you still kind of on the fence about whether we would need her?
Personally, I don't, but I mean, I think that's a question of how experienced each of our members are in that level of specificity of goal setting. If everybody's comfortable with doing it, then fine, let's just,
Yeah,
we
all
can
right.
self,
Right. And again, the part of the conversation, right, is do we need any, how many, and then, it could be a school committee goal, doesn't
Right.
have to be, you know. So, anybody else have thoughts or comments?
I think it's a great idea.
Yeah, all right. I mean,
Definitely worth discussion, and then if we all vote, I guess, that we want them, then we can work on.
right, but I guess because my real question tonight was, do I need to be calling Dorothy or not? And it sounds like people are saying, no, they don't really
We
feel it.
got it.
All right. And
We are well-versed in goals.
well, I just want to say, like, the transformation that I've seen in, I mean, you know, my first year and a half, I mean, I talked to Dorothy
I can't imagine how many times.
7 times a week, and now I haven't talked to her in, like, I don't know, a couple of months. So we've come a long way. So-
Oh, yeah.
The one thing that might be useful from Dorothy is to ask her for some examples of
Oh, that's a great
goals
idea.
from other schools.
Yep, I can do that.
That might help kind of trigger some.
That's a great idea.
That's a great idea. I'll ask her that. And I'm sure she'll be able to provide some examples. That's helpful. Great. All right. Thank you. All right. Okay. I think that's all that I have on that. Okay. Topics for future meetings? I know, okay, go ahead.
I don't know if this is a topic for a future meeting or whether it's just something I need to talk about with Eric and Craig, but I really would like to talk about incorporating girls flag football at the high school level. They have an inaugural league this year. The Patriots are funding it, Nike's funding it. There would be limited out-of-pocket costs, and there are already 4 teams on the North Shore out of those 8 that are playing. I think it's a really, I can look at it from a DEI perspective, because right now, most girls can play up until the 8th grade, and then there aren't very many leagues beyond that. Boys play up until the 8th grade, and then they get to play in high school.
So I love that you prefaced it right. It's hard to know where to exactly start with that, like what
Yeah.
the first step is. I suspect the first step probably is before we get to
Okay.
here, but I think it's important to, I'm glad you said that because it's a good starting point. Does it
Yeah.
sound, I mean, I don't want to, but Eric, it sounds like, is that something you'd be willing to talk with Jen about and then see? what-
Or Jen
how-
and Craig and I can
Yeah.
talk about it. I mean, even if you send me an email with some detail, I can at least get the conversation going, and,
Okay,
yeah.
Sounds
That'd be easier.
Okay.
yeah, I just wasn't sure where it fit.
All right. And then I know you had asked about the Dibbles data.
Right, but-
It's on a, I know it's on,
Yeah,
it's coming.
Eric said
but I
he'd
just-
put it
I
on
just
a
want to make sure I haven't
future
forgotten
meeting.
you, like, I know it's there, it's
Yeah.
coming.
It's on 6/8. I'm looking at the schedule now.
All right, anybody else have topics for future meetings?
The year-end forecast,
Okay, when is that coming, or when do you want to put that?
the next one if possible, or I could do it after.
Okay. Next week?
5/4. yeah.
Yep, okay. Okay. Anything else? Okay.
Move a motion to adjourn.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by
Could be
Julie.
my favorite motion.
It's everybody's favorite motion.
All right, I know.
And it's 9 o'clock, your timing is
Perfect.
amazing.
It's like,
Oh,
See you on the agenda.
exactly. We didn't actually vote on it. All those in favor? All right, and it's unanimous, and we are adjourned at
Wait till
8:59.
59.